All right.
Is anybody else?
Cool. So meditation class today. So you're saying that it was fun last time because we kind of explored a different way to meditate in terms of applying the stillness technique of just not doing anything rather than overly focusing on the breath, right?
Yeah, and even just like, what did you think? Just the rock. Remember that last week? Like, just be a rock. That's what I remember. Like,
Yeah.
do this.
So last week, I'll remind you, like I put emphasis on just being still. Like, so rather than like focusing on the breathing during the meditation, I was like, let's just try doing nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's interesting because that's like there are different techniques. Like in the Zen technique, they say like just do nothing. Like the goal of meditation is just to sit. And I actually really like that. I think it is a more advanced technique because you can't just start by doing that. But it's really helpful because like going back to all the stuff we say about like, not like looking for something out of your practice, when you are able to just sit like that, to just like sit with decent posture and like wakefulness, yeah, like all you would ever want to accomplish is already done. So like you don't even have to follow the but like you're like it's really, I mean, I don't want to say like it's the achievement of meditation because again there is like no achieving. It's kind of like paradoxical in that way.
Yeah.
But just to sit with posture and yeah, like that's it. Like you really need to do nothing else.
Mhm.
But at the beginning, it's helpful to use the breath. So I don't know. So today in practice, I would encourage you to kind of play with both.
Mhm.
So if your thoughts are particularly wild and unruly, like bring your attention to the breath to kind of slow things down. But if you find that your thoughts aren't really bothering you so much, just observe the stillness within you and just be with that. You don't have to do anything else.
So then if you're doing the 25%, then how does that switch? What changes when it's just switched?
That's a good question. So, well, actually, it is the 25% thing.
It's
So
a different kind of breath though.
yeah, right.
Mhm.
Well, so with the 25% thing, it's all kind of pushing you towards this state where you're just simply sitting there being present.
Mhm.
And the 25% thing is just to kind of like let beginners know, like, yes, you are focusing on your breath, but it's not really about the breath. It's more about just being still and being with what arises.
Got it.
So the 25% thing still very much applies because, because it's still, well, I guess it's less deliberate. So though you still kind of are spreading your awareness across those 4 different modalities,
Mhm.
you're not like particularly aware of any of them.
So you're not like turning your scope to anyone.
No.
You're just there.
It's everything at once sort of thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that help?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So like I guess in practice today we'll just we'll start by finding our posture. So I want to do a couple of little turns to see where it stacks up. And I would say just focus on keeping a relaxed posture, but upright. And I would say make that the most important thing. And if you're having difficulty, then you can start using the breath. But I think just holding the posture and relaxing is going to be the main goal today. But again, if you need to use the breath, it's always there. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Oh.
Welcome back. Thank you.
You finished with a smile. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I was thinking that was a good one today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Cool. Emily, anything?
I had a hard time sitting still.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like that.
sometimes, well, I think like the time wise it went fast, but I had a hard time sitting still.
Hmm. Yeah, probably because you've just been so still for so long.
Yeah. I haven't moved.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I have like this thing that's eating at me, and I'm like, this is so cool. I have a place to go. Like I like get pulled, and it's me. I love it. It's like
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool.
So what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good one today. I guess I would like to hear like, so Emily, have you experimented with meditating outside of our designated time here?
Yeah,
Yeah. And how is that? What does that look like for you?
it was, I think it was harder. It
Was
was an environment that,
That's
like,
not surprising.
yeah, like this, when we're sitting here like, actively doing it.
Right.
It was harder, but, it was nice.
Yeah, definitely it helps having the accountability of other people. Definitely locks you in, gets you over that initial hump because there can be a lot of resistance when you first sit down and you're like, what am I doing? And your thoughts just all come at you at once.
Yeah.
What about you, Trisha? What is your practice look like outside of our designated time here?
I just love to practice before I teach my classes.
Mm-hmm.
It really gets me in the space of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I practiced out on the pier.
Oh, that's great.
And that was interesting because it was a really quiet day in the lake. And as I'm meditating, like I said, I hear this right at my feet, this huge splash, and it was a duck jumping in the water. I'm like, totally got me. I'm like, yeah, good for you. But I do, and I don't do it 7 days a week. I
No.
should.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry
Yeah.
about it too much.
You know what I really like? What it does. It like really helps me.
Mhm.
Just yeah, it really does. So,
When you were on your dock, were you like finding yourself connecting with the stillness and the vastness of the water out in front of you?
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So sometimes my husband and I will sleep on our pontoon boat in the middle of the
fun.
lake. And the coolest thing, you go to sleep early because there's nothing to do. You're just, out in the middle of the lake. But then you also wake up at like 4:30 when all the nature sounds wake you up. And that's what meditating is like. It's like you just hear nature and it's like your first awareness.
Yes, that is exactly what it's like.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when one of the like meditation teachers who I love, Suzuki Roshi, he was asked, he's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do with your meditation? He's like, I'm just trying to teach people to hear the birds sing.
Yeah.
That's what he said, which is really like sounds so trivial and like, huh? But it's deep and it speaks to what you're saying about, just being in nature and being completely filled up with your awareness of nature.
And the rhythm of it.
Right.
Like it's just if you listen around, it's sort of like when you hear an orchestra or band play and you hear the instruments move and you can hear the animals and it kind of goes in a circle. It's wild.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like the toads or whatever will sing back and forth from shore to shore.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Kisis is like in like an amphitheater. It's like kind of like
Yeah.
yeah. That's cool.
How about you? When you practice by yourself?
Mm-hmm. I practice every morning. I try to, and yeah, it's good. It's definitely lots of times I'll like now like I pretty well know when 20 minutes is up.
So you don't even set your timer anymore?
No, I definitely set my
Oh,
timer,
okay.
but like I will like I don't always go for the whole 20 minutes.
Okay.
I just kind of like let myself.
Oh.
I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, like if I end anything short of like say like if I end and I still have 5 minutes left on the clock, I'll kind of be like, oh shoot, like that was not a good one. But usually it's like, within 1 to 2 minutes left, and I try to end like in a place where I feel like is a good place to end. Because it is kind of like, I don't know, there's a process of like letting go and like touching the stillness, but then you kind of want to also come back in a way where you're going to show up and be ready to tackle the day for me, because I do it in the morning. So like I like to, it's like after you go on a run, you kind of want to like walk it in. So I kind of like to like walk it in, and then if I feel like I'm in a good spot to stop, I'll stop, even if my timer hasn't gone off. But usually, like I say, I usually know when 20 minutes is up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of cool what you just said, because it sounds like you're in a space and you're like, this is the space right here that I could go to work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like once I touch the space, and it's different every day, but sometimes like when I first started meditating, a lot of the time, I would set my clock for 20 minutes, and I would sit down and I would really get into it, and then the 20 minutes would be up and I would be shattered. I would be like, because I was in such like,
Yeah.
I was enjoying like the peacefulness of it so much, and then 20 minutes would stop and I'd like have to come back into the world, and like a lot of the times I would just like continue to meditate. I was really obsessed with it when I first started.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I don't like, I'm not trying to like seek the peace and the stillness so much. It's more just about like, there's this idea in one of the books I like, and it's a traditional Buddhist idea, but it's like approaching enlightenment through the back door. So you don't do anything but meditate, and like it's the whole like no gaining ideal thing, that like, you're not going to get anything out of your practice. It's all about sinking into here and now. But the idea is that like if you apply the practice like from a physiological standpoint, it will start to do the thing to your brain that will make you more present. So like if you start like worrying about I don't know, achievement or all this stuff, it just becomes like a crazy hindrance to your practice. It'll like totally
It's the same thing you do in your life. So you're not gaining anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to like get too fixed on gaining something, because it'll just become too hard at some point. Like you will start to resent your practice, you'll start to resent yourself, and then you'll be back where you started pretty quick. So
I think it's really interesting that the Dalai Lama, knowing that, and I forget what they call the people that are with the Dalai Lama. Priests?
the Sangha.
Sangha, okay. That, so he went to Madison, he just let them study, they all let them study the brain of meditators, knowing that probably people are going to get attached, but yet they still did it to know, does it make a difference?
Yeah.
It's like, it's cool to know it and then not to like, but I'm still going to just do it to have an experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get too fixated on the goal, like, because it becomes then it like that's the whole idea of like approaching enlightenment through the back door, because you don't, it just happens. Like you don't like try to go for it, because then there's all these obstacles that'll present themselves to you. But like, I don't know, it's just an interesting idea
I agree.
that keeps you like grounded in your practice.
And I think too, like when you're present and you learn how to be present through practice, then you start like you pick up cues just around you in silence that help you with whatever you're doing,
Totally.
rather than overworking. And it's really nice permission, even as I get older. I'm in a different stage of my life where you guys are sort of in a different stage.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, I don't really have to work that hard. This presence thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is cool, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be different because of our ages, but it just
No, I
different.
totally know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just learning to trust your environment and trust yourself. And I think so. Like this is an idea I was exploring in my book that speaks to what you're saying here. Like as you do grow older and as you do like gain more life experience, you develop wisdom, and like that is just a process of, seeing loved ones come into your life, seeing loved ones pass out of your life. Like all these experiences give you perspective, and hopefully as you age, you get wiser. That's not always the case. Some people, who resist the change can actually like go inward and build up a shell.
Yeah.
And, that's like the old curmudgeonly old woman or man.
I see it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think naturally the process is to, become more open with age and learn to let go, because life literally lets go for you. And like what some people's reaction is to squeeze on tighter, and then they become, the grumpy old person.
Right. Or chase.
Chase, right?
Yeah.
But what's cool about that is with meditation, you don't have to wait till you become super old to develop wisdom.
Yeah.
You can start doing it whenever. I mean,
Or just recognize the inherent wisdom that you are. I mean, I wish I
exactly.
would have. Yeah.
Right. We all have the truth within us. And it's no different than anybody else's truth.
No. Yeah.
So so it's just everyone has the truth and understanding within them, and everyone has a different path to connecting with that. But that's not to say we can't, believe in other people and know that they're capable of that change, and show them the way to their own basic goodness.
I think just the experience of knowing, like the being versus the doing, like, because our culture is so wrapped up in doing, right? And
Yeah.
achieving, and just knowing that the being is it's pretty profound.
Yeah.
Like, who am I? Oh, I'm just this. I'm nothing. But that's so profound.
It is. No, it really is. It brings up another point that's interesting, that's talked about in the spiritual literature, where it's like, where, you try to express these ideas to people too soon who aren't ready for it. And they're like, of course I know that. It's so simple. Everybody knows that. But if you don't understand the value of, the idea that everything changes, the idea that all that we have is the present moment, then it means nothing to you, So like just to intellectualize it alone isn't gonna, give you the liberation that actually being it will.
The experience.
The experience, yeah. So with meditation, like, the rubber really hits the road. Like it's no longer conceptual. We're moving to the domain of spirituality. Like we're not thinking about all these like crazy ideas, all these things that are gonna happen to us, the myth of enlightenment. Like, no, we're actually here, we're present, and it's a miracle. But you have to actually, I feel like, apply, and it's not to say you have to meditate. I don't think that meditation works for everyone. I don't, like, everyone has their own path to their truth. Meditation, I think, is an invaluable tool for those who are able to practice. But yeah, everyone has their own way to find that truth within them. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
It's true. Yeah. Many paths.
Many paths. Yeah. Yeah. It's like all streams lead to the ocean. There are many different ways to get there. So
it's true.
Have you had any thoughts since surgery or before surgery? Any existential musings on
my life?
Well, yeah, because that's kind of a big thing to go under in life.
Not really. Like, I wasn't afraid for it. I was I was pretty excited to have this done.
Yeah.
Because it finally gave me an answer.
Yeah.
And I got an answer. So
that must feel great.
Yeah. I was right about what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels good too.
It was validating to know, because I've like been through a lot of doctors and stuff like that who just told me to like what are you talking about.
Wow.
So I mean, it was
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to find a doctor that'll hear you and listen is pretty important.
Yeah, that was really big. Whole like existential thing.
Yeah. No, that's great.
that actually is kind of existential, don't you think?
I
Like,
think it
yeah,
is.
like advocating for yourself and knowing that you knew that something was going on.
Yeah, I guess you could put it that way.
Yeah.
Love it like that.
Yeah, and taking your, that into your own hands, and it goes back to what we were saying about like no one knows, like your own truth better than all these doctors with these fancy degrees.
Yeah.
Like the knowing was inside you all along. So like, I don't know.
Mhm.
You never like, I don't know. We all know our own truth better than anyone else ever could.
Mhm.
A lot of the times, like we feel insecure and we'll like ask other people, be like, well, what do you think? It's like
Yeah.
at the end of it, like at the end of the day, like all that matters is what you think of yourself.
Mhm.
You're the boss, and trust that. Trust your basic goodness because we all have that intelligence and knowing within us, and we can afford to trust it.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I love that. I love your story. It's a good story.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Keep trusting your gut.
Mhm.
Anything else? Any other mindfulness things?
Yeah, we can talk post meditation mindfulness if you guys want. Yeah, let me think. I guess yeah. So mindfulness. Can you see? So hopefully, in meditation and mindfulness, the idea is that like um, the edges of our sitting practice and our daily life kind of start to blur,
Mhm.
where the awareness that we experience sitting, just the naked raw awareness of what's happening, starts to permeate our lives, and that doesn't always happen right away.
Mhm.
And there can be a lot of the times we resist that sort of process because um, I don't know, it's not always super comfortable, and we might feel like we're not showing up in the world like we used to, and that can be scary.
Mhm.
But I don't know, with post meditation mindfulness, you can sort of learn to show up however you want, really.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it starts with the stillness, but then knowing that, then you can, like going back to like, best, like you know yourself so well, like you can express yourself in this situation however you want. So it can be exciting because even though we're kind of getting rid of our old stories and patterns, we can create a new one, which is very exciting. But it's also important to stay grounded in the practice itself, knowing that, just the awareness is primary. And if you like, get really still, get really clear, and you are able to achieve all these things and you attribute it to your meditation practice, you might be liable to like fall into some sort of egotism again, where you're like, oh, like now I've been meditating, so now I've got this, and this, but that'll inevitably lead to disillusionment when, it doesn't work out. So,
So have you experienced that?
I think, I mean, yeah,
I would think you'd have to because that's part of it, right? You're getting to know
Yeah.
this new space.
right. I think that I've definitely experienced it to certain degrees. I mean, not really. I guess graduating college and like finally like getting a job was kind of disillusioning in a sense because it goes back to the whole thing where it's like that was my goal for so long and I finally made it, and like there's still same old like you really
Kind of works. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I mean, no, it is kind of worse in
Yeah.
some regards.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's tough because you think like you've got it figured out, but that's just the thing, like
Mhm.
and I knew that going into this, like I started like really with a really good initial teacher in my UWM class who taught me all this, and like he laid it all out like so well. And
Wow.
yeah, so I knew what I was getting into, but also it's like it's hard because when you start meditating and you start to get better at it, like you because you're doing well, because you're excelling through the practice, like it necessarily gets harder. It is like rising through. So like if you do really good on like your last night's homework, like you don't get to just like tap out and be like, ah, I did it, got an A. Like no, now's the next thing, which is gonna be harder. Like you're in pre-calculus, you ace pre-calculus. Well, now here's calc 2. And like life is like that. Life is like you keep well, it's not always like that. Like some people, don't, and that's okay too. Like it's not to say there's a right or wrong way to do it. But for me, it's like how do I show up for the challenges and increase my capacity to take on challenges and work through them and find joy in that process because there is no end goal. That process is the goal itself. So it's like this whole idea that like the path is the goal. So like the path to spirituality, the path to enlightenment is itself enlightenment because there is no final destination place.
So like are you saying like this thing showed up, and because it showed up and I choose to walk through it, the experience is the path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and meditation can be kind of a haunting thing in that regard, where it's like once you start down the path, and you really like touch the space of awareness, it is like because it is a more fundamental level of our being than like our like thought identification, like identifying with form and all that. It can be kind of hard because it's kind of I don't know. In this book, he says like you lose the virginity of your ego, which is kind of like a crass thing to say, but like when you meditate enough, it is like there's a loss of innocence there that you can't really like go back to. You can't really hide in your confusion and play all deaf and dumb to the problems in your life. You can no longer deceive yourself in the same way you used to.
Yeah, it's a lot to face.
It's a lot to face. Yeah, right. So really the only way through it is through it, like head on.
I do something to say to that though.
Yeah.
And it's cool that this is on recording or whatever, but like, so drinking alcohol, for a long time, I live on a lake, there's a lot of partying. So we did a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so then at some point I said, hey, I'm just going to quit. And I did. But then what I found is that in the quitting, there was a desire to binge.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also like, what about responsible? Like just here it is. And then just enough just to savor and then put it down.
Yes.
And then take a little and savor it and put it down. And I found for myself that is actually a really interesting practice.
Yeah.
And it can kind of be a life thing too. It's like, oh, wait a minute, this thing is coming. And man, I could tackle it. I could dig my teeth in, but if I could savor it.
Yeah.
It's a whole other.
No, I love what you're saying because
and put it down.
Right. So that's what I'm failing to say. Like it is like what you're describing is the middle way, the middle path, which is like a core idea of Buddhism, of the meditation tradition where these ideas come from. And yeah, it is like, look, you're not going to be able to just like you go through it, but like it's slowly but surely, and like you still like obviously have all this like emotional baggage that you still have to process, and you don't want to like push yourself to the breaking point. Like you have to the path really is all like we all have our own stuff to work through, and it looks different for everyone, but yeah, you don't want to like jump too far into it to begin with, because that's like what I'm saying about, like if you're like, all right, I'm doing it, I'm going for enlightenment, like you're like, I'm going for it, and like, you know, and you jump too far into it, and then it all comes crashing down
Yeah.
because you're not integrating your whole being throughout the process. So you're not, savoring the aspects of your, your trauma or whatever it is, whatever the stuff that you have to work through is. Like, you really have to come to terms with it. You can't just say, I'm a meditator now, so those things no longer matter. Like, they do matter. Like when that pain comes up, that pain is always going to be way stronger than our conceptual idea that, oh, it's just my thought. Like, no, like you're feeling pain inside you. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just say, oh, well, it's just my thought. And so it is a process of really working through your stuff.
And maybe that's what you were saying about, like geometry and then calc and then calc 2 and then whatever comes next.
Right.
Like it makes you honest. You really have to consider and then step back into where you are.
Right. You have to be where you are. You can't pretend to be like all enlightened and happy, or like put on a false smile for someone. Like, no, don't. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, really be genuine for yourself and show up and be genuine for others. Like, don't feel like you have to be like, oh, I'm like,
happy.
Yeah, like, rainbows coming out of my ears and all that jazz. Like, no, that's bogus. And people see right through that.
Right.
Like, people are going to appreciate you showing up and speaking your truth always. That's always going to show way more than like trying to be like, ooh, I'm Mr. Enlightened now, so I'm just going to talk really slow and like, no, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And everyone can see through that sort of thing.
That and you like lose like your essence, the character of yourself,
Right.
Right? I just feel like
No, your natural raw
Yeah.
ruggedness. And that's like what, like, through the practice of meditation, like I've just come to appreciate people's like just ruggedness. Like, some people are just, some people can be nasty, and like that's fine. Like,
cool.
yeah, right. Like, even someone like my best friends, like part of the thing about like having a long-term friendship with someone is like you learn to know the things about them that bug you, but you do still be their friend because they're your friend. And like it's the same thing with yourself. You'll start to see things that you're doing that really bug you, and you're like, and we all do this. I mean, I definitely do this, where I'll be like, I can't believe I said that. Like, oh my God, like looked like such an idiot in front of this person who I wanted to impress. And like, we just like, beat ourselves up, or I do. And it used to be way worse. When I was drinking, I would do this for weeks. I would drink on a weekend, and then just like, no one cared at all how I acted. Like, everyone, and I was fun. Like, I definitely was fun, but I would just beat myself up over nothing because I like would just get so freaked out about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, like you're fine. Just like trust yourself, love yourself, like
Forgive yourself.
Yeah, like it's cool. And meditation helps you, face yourself and realize there's like it's fine. Like, you're just a person like all the rest of them.
Right.
And then you can apply that compassion to others when they hurt you, which will inevitably happen. And then you can, stay at a more even keel and hopefully, tread that middle way of not feeling like you need to, not feeling like you're suppressed, so you need to like show everyone what you're made of, and also not feeling like you're like just this miserable, like pathetic, like creature, because you know that there's goodness inside of you. So you learn to find just like peace, stillness, truth.
One thing that makes that a thought that comes to my mind is, especially coming out of the education system where you're either getting an A or an F, right? Maybe a C, a D, or B. So that's, I have to succeed at something and I can't make a mistake. And how, it's just the English education system so flawed that way.
Yeah.
And so meditation for me, it's like, wow, it's really okay when I make mistakes, because that's really what learning is. Learning is making mistakes, and then being in that meditative space where like I'm just with me, and yeah, I might have just made that mistake, even if it's another human being.
Mhm.
Maybe I did say something that was totally inappropriate, and I forgive myself, and I'm gonna go say something else to them now. You
Yeah,
know, like I don't have to get an A all the time. I don't,
totally.
right?
No,
Or even some of the time. I
right,
don't need to ever get an A again.
right.
You right?
No, totally. And you know what you begin to realize too is like it is so subjective. Like
Yeah.
some people like some people will really appreciate like some actions, some people won't. So you just gotta listen to the feeling inside you. So if the feeling inside you says, you know I could have handled that better,
Mm-hmm.
then just listen to it. But if the feeling inside you, you know, it becomes very experiential. So it's less about what you actually said and more about how you're feeling in that moment during that interaction, or like how do you know what I'm saying?
And how you can respond to yourself. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's really what that is. The interaction you're going to have with somebody, if you do go back or don't go back, is how you're responding to yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, how you're
Yeah.
responding to yourself, absolutely. Because many times the things, if we act in a way that we later look back on, are like,
Mhm.
we're reacting to our own projection of what someone else said. And then we say something ridiculous and we're like, oh, I was like, you're totally not present because you're acting inside of your own concept of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's this ego clinging thing. You're like, I'm like this, and like, do you know what I'm saying? And that's like,
It's the fourth relationship in the coaching, right?
is that what it,
You know, so every relationship, the four relationships are, you know, my relationship with myself, with God, my relationship with God or
Mhm.
source,
right?
my relationship with others, and then what I think people are thinking of me in the
Yeah,
manual.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Then that's really the first one. It's the same thing, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
what I think other people are thinking of me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because really all of our neurosis are like tied up in others. Like really, because
Yeah.
when you're sitting by yourself in meditation, like we can really drop it all, albeit for short periods of time
Mhm.
and hopefully longer as you practice more. But yeah, you just begin to realize that so much of our pain is like self-generated. Um, but that's not to say you should tap out and not involve yourself. You should learn how to involve yourself fully and find that even keel where you're reflecting your truth and not getting pulled out of whack in either direction.
Mhm.
The directions being like self-aggrandizement and also just like totally feeling like less than, right, sort of thing. So yeah, and it's such a process. Like that is living. Like so like I don't think anyone ever really figures it out. Like that's why like enlightenment is kind of a myth. But like just the act of like trying to do that, trying to not make yourself bigger than you are and not beat yourself up as less than, like the path is the goal. Just being aware that you have the tendency to do these things and making an effort to stay equanimous so that you don't cause further pain to yourself and others. Well, that's it. And that's why we try to meditate, to hopefully figure out what that might look like in our lives.
Mhm.
Create the space to then figure out what that might look like.
Got anything, Emily?
Not really. I'm just enjoying the discussion.
Good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I like what you said at the beginning when you said, like the meditation itself will blur into your life. And I know personally for myself, if I find my emotional self getting real big and like, oh, I'm feeling real out of control. At least now I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'll just go back to this space.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier than others.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. And you should like still, when you have those emotional upwellings, like you can come back to the stillness of the space faster and faster as you meditate more and more, but you still should learn to listen to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go away and it doesn't
No.
shut up.
You don't and you don't want it to. You don't
Right.
want it to go away or shut up.
Yeah.
That's like your emotional response in any situation. That's like that is your fundamental intelligence. Like that is your primordial awareness. and it like, you transmute that into truth so that you can, act properly, whatever that means.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, like I keep talking about this book club, Body Keeps the Score, that we did,
Uh-huh.
and they talk about people that have had big trauma or repeated trauma and how, so trauma is you have a trauma and then the limbic brain puts you into fight or flight, and then like the trauma will go away, but you're so unconditionally conditioned to have that stress response, it just takes over your body.
Yeah.
So, like this thing will happen and then it's like an overreaction, and it's from something in the past. What I love about meditation, the practice, is it reprograms that.
It does.
Yeah. And it's just real conscious. It's like, yeah, that thing is there and I'm watching myself do it. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I am so grateful that, people have ahead of us, I'm grateful for the lineage
Yeah.
of wisdom that has been passed on, because you can only learn so much in a lifetime, and these Buddhist meditators have been passing this down lifetime after lifetime. So the wisdom is the wisdom of someone who had lived countless lives. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what a tradition is. A tradition is a way of doing things that's been practiced for thousands of years. So in Buddhism and mindfulness in particular, the reason it's so exciting is because it's always evolving too. It's each iteration, we talk about early Buddhism looks very different than later ideas of Buddhism.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, big time. I mean, it's all based on the same fundamental truth, but it yeah, it's all rivers lead to the ocean. But yeah, as things change, and different cultures have to figure out different paths to the ocean, different time periods have to figure out different ways of navigating to the truth. But I don't know, I think it's really exciting right now with mindfulness and meditation in particular, because we do have access to the internet, which is the the overmind of the human species in some way. So it's more relevant, the wisdom of these Buddhist traditions is kind of more relevant than ever. But yeah, it's just interesting.
It is an interesting time to integrate meditation for sure.
Yeah, because things are speeding up and they're just getting so wild and crazy. I mean, I think everyone always feels that way, but I do think it's especially true right now in our everyday lives. No one knows what to believe anymore, and all this stuff, but you can always ground yourself in your awareness. That's the one thing that will always be with you. So
something that just blew me away. I was talking, it was a post that somebody made about how different what your experience is, YouTube in social media compared to mine growing up.
yeah,
Where you go to a party or you go to a football game or whatever you go to, and if you do have a faux pas, in my day, a couple people would razz you and you would leave, and maybe you get a nickname.
yeah.
In your day, it's all over social media, and everybody knows, and it keeps going, it keeps perpetuating itself. And that changes you.
Yeah.
And so I can see meditation is so helpful. But imagine if you're, well, I don't know, maybe you guys know, 16 or 15 or 13, and something did happen, and or some sort of bully or something created a story about you, and
yeah. I think it's the same old story, but it's just so freaky because
there's an image now.
yeah, now it's there's a space where it exists.
Yeah.
That's not just
Yeah.
So it's just definitely, I think it's the same old thing that always happens, but it's scarier for young people like that.
So why this work is so important now, I think.
Mhm.
especially for young adults, teenagers.
Yeah, I think that's like my main interest is how to like apply these like insights to media use so that people learn to trust themselves, their own inherent knowing, their own inherent truth and wisdom, rather than like believing all these kooky things that they read on the internet, or like thinking that like they have to look like this standard of beauty is like, because that's a big thing too now, like
It is.
all these like, yeah,
Everything, all the images.
all the images.
Yeah.
People are getting saturated with it and they're like
Yeah.
gravitating towards some. They're like, no, this is who I want to be. And they're being shown it. It's like, no, just be who you are right here, right now. And the beautiful thing about that too is if you learn to be yourself, culture comes from within. You become a source of culture. You're no longer consuming all these different,
Mhm.
you are actually culture itself. So you have something to give in that way rather than trying to be Kim Kardashian or trying to be,
Grabbing at something.
Yeah.
Again.
yeah. So, but when you hold the knowing within
Mhm.
and you expand yourself outward through your mindfulness, you can actually be a source of culture and inspiration to others.
That should be in your book.
Yeah.
That is big.
Like being the leader instead of the follower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. That was powerful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe the next one.
yeah, I definitely been experimenting with these ideas for a long time. And I don't know, I'm glad that they resonate with you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Should we
Cool.
close her up?
I think so.
All right.